Well, good evening, everybody. Before I go any further, I just want to make sure, can everybody hear me? Yay, the gremlins are not out with me tonight. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Good to see so many people on tonight. I've got a packed half hour for you, really. Before we get going though, welcome to this webinar on, strange enough, webinars. As I say, before we get going, just a couple of ground rules. If you've got any questions, if you'd like to use a microphone and ask them live, please put your hand up and we can test the technology and see how well it works. Failing that, you can type your questions in the box on the right hand side and I'll give a go at answering them. I would ask that you keep questions on topic, and I would also ask that if you see somebody online that you've maybe not spoken to for a while, that you connect with them offline again. Thank you. So, webinars. Why would you want to use a webinar as a marketing strategy? So the thing is, around about this time last year, I went to a presentation where somebody said, and I think it was Karen Williams for those of you that know her, if you're going to concentrate on a marketing approach, you should perhaps just concentrate on 3 strategies and 3 strategies alone. Now at the end of the day, what you want to do is have it so that you're particularly good at using these strategies and that you're getting the most from them. And if you think about it, it's kind of like if you identify your ideal customer, you're now identifying 3 ideal marketing strategies that you're going to use to connect with them. Now for me, public speaking is one of my strategies. And I'm really grateful to John for allowing me to talk to you guys again. I think this is the 3rd webinar I've hosted, because it's given me the practice that I need and I want to be able to hone my skills, at the same time as hopefully giving you guys a little bit of information that you might find useful. Now at the end of the webinar tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the details of some providers, some webinar providers. And the one I'm starting to use is actually a company that will allow you to use webinars for free, so it doesn't cost you any money. They will allow you to have up to 200 delegates online. So certainly at the start out, you're not going to get probably that many. I mean, if we look at what we've got tonight, 2, 4, 6 online tonight, so you're not going to get 200 on there. And it also allows you to have more than one presenter, which is ideal if you're starting off, because obviously you don't want to spend a fortune. So if you're going to make the decision to use webinars, take action, start now. And like I say, you can even co-host if that would take the pressure off you. Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. So, I digress. So what are we going to look at tonight? Our agenda as it is, we're going to look at what is a webinar, your audience, the presentation itself. What then? What happens after that? And then finally, as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about some providers and what they do and what they can offer you. So to start with, what exactly is a webinar? Well, I suppose technically it's a web-based seminar. And there are several advantages that a webinar has over a live seminar that you can get going with straight away. One of the main advantages is that it will turn you from a local company or from a local provider into a global provider overnight. Your reach is global. You can talk to anybody in the world, and that is certainly a huge plus when it comes to doing business. Also, it's active and not passive. So if you think you write yourself an advert and you put it in the newspaper, what happens with that? Well, maybe somebody reads it, maybe somebody doesn't. It's one of those things that you've got no control over. If you've got a webinar going on, you've got control of that. You're actually building a relationship with your prospective customer. As I mentioned already, it can be cheaper. You can actually do this free. And anything you can do for free to get customers has got to be fantastic. And also, it allows you to sell one-to-many as opposed to just one-to-one. Now, if you're going to get to 100 customers and you're just doing it one-to-one, that might take you 100 hours. But if you've got a webinar where you've got 100 customers or potential customers online, you've done that in an hour. So it saves you time as well. Now, obviously, it's not all sweetness and light in the garden of webinars. There are definite disadvantages to it too. One of the main ones is that oftentimes there's a huge underestimation made in the effort and time required to get attendees. So you might spend hours and hours and end up with 2 or 3 people. But, 2 or 3 people's a start. And if you're trying to build a brand, build a presence online or whatever, this is how you're going to do it. But you can't underestimate the effort that's required to get people to listen. So in terms of your marketing, where would a webinar come in? Well, if we look at this marketing funnel with the customer at the bottom, the webinar would probably be up somewhere near the top at your targets. What you're trying to do with a webinar is get people to give you their details. So they're feeding into the top of that funnel. And once you've got their details, that's when you can start to get people down into towards the sales. Not the easiest thing in the world, and we'll talk later about once you've actually got them, what you can do with them to try and cultivate them from being prospects into actually being customers. But just to give you an idea, if you get, let's say, 100 people at your webinar, of your prospective customers, only 4% of people are ready to actually buy what you're selling right now. 4%, that's tiny. And interestingly, if you do all that work that I was talking about earlier in getting people to register for your webinar and get there, 30% will attend if it's a free webinar, and only 70% if it's a paid webinar. Have any of you actually run webinars where you've found this? You think you've got a ton of people coming and suddenly there's nobody there? I'm seeing silence. Oh, there we go. Somebody's typing. Yeah, Pat's saying she only had a couple present. And I get that. It does take quite a lot of work. So here's where you are looking for this top targets, if you like. This is what you're trying to do in getting people in for your webinars. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about is focus. When you focus, what you want to focus on is just the one idea. You know what we've talked about in NLP. You set a goal. The goal for tonight's webinar is to educate. Not just to educate you guys, but also to educate me and to build my experience. So for me, it's a win-win. At least I hope the same for you. But that's what it is. You also need to focus on getting the right audience. Now, I'm assuming already that you have already identified your ideal customer. And hopefully, if you're going to use webinars, you've also identified your customer from hell. So what you need to do here is make sure that you are targeting your ideal customer like crazy. You also need to focus on making sure that you're advertising well enough in advance. Some of the things that I've read have suggested anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks in advance is where you want to start advertising, and then obviously as you get closer and closer, your advertising and your reminders get more and more frequent. So you want people to get there. So it's all about getting that focus. You also need to focus on using the technology to its full capacity, although I'm probably going to talk about that a little bit more later. In fact, I'm actually going to try to use that a little bit more later. I've got a poll for you. Bit of a tongue-in-cheek poll with a serious aspect to it. But certainly, what we need to do is get that focus. Make the decision, focus on it, move forward. And as you focus, you'll realise that the focus you've got is driving your performance, and the performance that you're driving is getting really, really impressive. And as you focus more, you just get better and better, because that's the way it goes. Anyway, I was off on one. I do apologise. So the next thing we're going to look at is the presentation itself. Have any of you come across any particular models that you've used for building presentations? Is there anything that specifically springs to mind with you guys? Yep, so we've got PowerPoint and Prezi. And actually, Steve, I know somebody that does a really, really good, in fact, no, not good, that's not a good word, an absolutely awesome presentation about PowerPoint and Prezi. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I'm sure it'll come to me. So, yeah, non-linear. Yes, Steve, really. Now, the one I was thinking of is something that John introduced me to last year. I can't say I'd heard of it before, and I've been doing presentations, I think, for close to 30 years. But it did make sense in what he said, and it's very simple, and that, of course, is Kolb. And Kolb suggests that you should give 4 things in your presentation, and that is what it is, why you're telling people about it, how good it is or how it is, and what if. I mean, think, what if you used webinars as a marketing strategy? You would be global. Yes. Yeah, I think it's one of the models that John likes to use in his training. So I'm guessing that most of us, well, I'm hoping that most of us have heard of it. But as I say, this is the kind of thing that we need to be looking at for our presentation. And like I say, what if you used webinars? What if you put all that effort in to get a 100 strong audience? How many of those could you turn into customers over, let's say, 6 to 9 months? The potential is massive, absolutely massive. And I must admit, I've just literally yesterday started advertising a webinar that I'm going to be running probably in about 5 weeks, which is going to be based around lead generation for small businesses without spending money. So that's something that I'm working on, and I'm actually using Kolb mixed in with a couple of other bits and bobs that I've read and heard to build that. So anyway, if you want to know more about that, please email John, and I can let him know what the details of that are if you're interested at all. Anyway, I digress. Now, before I go on to interaction with the audience, for example, a poll, what I want to say is, if you're going to write a presentation, have a script. Now, you might not use the script, but it is really a good starting point. Now, certainly when I was building this, it was very much a case of, okay, throw some ideas together, what am I going to do? Roughly write down an outline, and then as I started rehearsing it yesterday a couple of times, and this morning it was like, oh yeah, I like that, I don't like that, and you can actually get through it. And certainly, although I can't see any of you guys, and I'm not actually getting any visual feedback, I can tell that you're all really engrossed. Which brings me neatly on to the poll. If you're going to have an audience, then what do you think your audience is going to be doing? Now, I'm hoping that you can actually see the poll that's come up on the screen. Please tell me that you can or you can't. Oh yes, I'm getting option 3. Okay, we're getting some votes coming in now, and they're all, oh look at this, option 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 5 votes in out of 7. And take notes. Yes, I omitted to put in take notes because obviously, you know, if you're anything like me and you're not necessarily listening and giving it your full attention, I trust that my subconscious is going to catch everything that I need. Really. Okay. So now that, as I say, was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek poll, but at the same time it has kind of got a serious point to it, in that this is the kind of thing that your audience is likely to be doing. And as I say, you haven't got the ability to see what's going on in you can't see that someone's twitching in the seat. You can't see that someone's playing Angry Birds on the phone. So it's very much a case of trying to use everything that you can to maintain your audience's attention. Okay, and I'm just going to share the results with you. Hopefully you can see them. Now, obviously, everybody that's on tonight has pretty much said that you just pay complete attention, which I get completely, because that's the kind of folks that we are. But you see what I mean about interacting with the audience and just making sure that things are going as well as they possibly can be. Now, this is an interesting one. For those of you that were paying attention at the start, I actually said that at the end of the presentation I'll be going through some provider details where you will get the opportunity to sign up for free. You can get 200 attendees. You can do a joint presentation if you want. So what I said there was designed specifically to keep you involved and keep you there until the end. And that's what this whole bribe is. Now, at the end of the day, what you might want to do is say to your audience, okay, at the end there'll be a free report, there'll be a free ebook, there'll be a whatever. And again, what you're after is their contact details. So that just keeps you on top as well. And it obviously keeps your audience involved and makes sure that Don't sort of drift away and try and go and get a cup of tea or whatever. Now if you think back again to the agenda, deliver what you said you're going to deliver. Now obviously in half an hour you're not going to have much of a chance to deliver absolutely everything. But if you under-promise and over-deliver, people will remember that. And then of course there's the call to action. As I say, at the end, you've built your audience, you've crafted and delivered a great presentation, and then you want to get people to sign up for, send me your email details, enter your details, whatever. So you've got all that, and that's it. And now, finally, you've delivered your presentation. You think, breathe. But no, we're not going to do that, because we've got to follow up. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, only 4% of the people that you get onto your webinar probably will be ready to buy from you right now. So you need to start thinking about how are you going to follow up with them and make sure that you are their first port of call when they're looking to buy whatever it is you're selling. This is where you need either a drip campaign or you need some sort of diarised campaign where you just follow up consistently and regularly so that when they're ready, you're the first person that's in their mind. Now also, apart from following up with your prospects, anything else you think that we might need to do? I'm seeing somebody's typing, so that's fantastic. So, yep, you want to maintain contact. Excuse me while I just have a quick slurp of tea. Oh, that's good. Pat, that is exactly what I wanted to get to. Evaluate what went on in your webinar. Now, WizIQ is recording this for John, so he's going to be able to give this out to everybody. And I'm also recording it using a screen capture software called Camtasia. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's something that is particularly simple to use, and believe me, that needs to be for me. And once I've sort of calmed down and gone away for the night, I'll look at this tomorrow and think, what could I improve on? What could I do different? What could I do better? Because as I said, this is me just gaining experience in delivering these kind of webinars, and I'm grateful, as I say, to John for allowing me that option. But I still want to improve, and I want to have that focus that I was talking about earlier on to get really good at this. I want to be the best that I can possibly be at giving webinars, at public speaking. So this is all part of my strategy, and it's not going to be a quick strategy, but it's all there. So yeah, record it, watch it again, and just see how it goes. So what if you decide you don't want to use webinars? What if you think, oh no, I'm too shy, I'm not very good at public speaking? You're ready now. Believe me, if you wait till you're ready, you'll never do anything. So just do it. Don't sit there thinking, oh, I can't, I haven't got the confidence. I haven't got the confidence. Just get out there and do it. You can. We know you can. So, we're coming to the end, coming to the last 5 minutes. My cat's chiming in as well, bless her. And I said I'd give you a list of some providers, so here goes. You've got Workcast, Bankle, GoToWebinar. I'm actually trialing GoTo next month on the 25th, which is going to be my first solo webinar. So we'll see how that goes. Like I say, I'm trialing it, and again, it's free, so that's why I'm using it. I just want to see how different it is to the provider I've got currently. Click Webinar is another one, and finally the one that I use, AnyMeeting. If you Google AnyMeeting, they'll give you the option to have, as I said, they'll give you a free account. You can hold as many webinars as you want. You can have up to 200 people attending. You can have joint presenters. Two downsides to it. The first is that you get a small advert on the right hand side of the screen, and the second is that you can't record it. So if you want to record it, as I do, you just need to have something like Camtasia so you can capture your screen. So just to go back over what we've looked at what a webinar is, who your audience should be and how you can get to them, how to build your presentation and make sure that it has maximum impact, and then how to follow up, and finally that list of potential providers that you may want to use to implement your webinar strategy. Now hopefully you've enjoyed what I've done tonight. It's been very quick. I've certainly enjoyed it. Always nice to have a smile on my face, of course. Over to you guys. Are there any questions? Thank you, Pat. I enjoyed it myself. Glad to have you on board. Best length for a webinar? I would say somewhere between half an hour and an hour. You could possibly do them shorter or longer, but if you think longer and you're going to get people bored, half an hour, yeah, you can probably get everything in that you want. 45 minutes may be the optimum, with 15 minutes for questions. So like I say, somewhere between half an hour and an hour. That way you'll be able to get everything in and make sure that your presentation is as impactful as possible. Tony, that's how you spell Camtasia. Sorry, Sean. Yes, and Pat comes up with a great suggestion there. When you're looking to start out, ask your friends to be the audience first for feedback. Now, a friend of mine, actually a client, he says, I don't necessarily want to know that somebody is enjoying the webinar. I want to see that it's having a result, having a concentration only lasts for 10 minutes. I've actually got a really good slide somewhere about concentration and the other things that we might think about after that. However, I'm not quite sure it's really suitable for a family audience. And the polling software is actually on WizIQ on this. Most of the providers that you'll find will actually have polls available on them, so you can build your own poll and just let it go. So I'm reading a great book at the moment, The Chimp Paradox. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's all about our inner chimp, and it's quite interesting. Yeah. Yes, polling is a very good way of interacting with your audience. Make sure they're listening as well. It gives you that little feedback that you perhaps need to see that they're all listening. Exactly, or not asleep. Well, we have 30 seconds left, so I'm guessing that you have no more questions. With that in mind, I will say farewell. Thank you very much for attending. As I say, if you want to co-present with somebody, get in touch with John. I'm sure he can fix you up with somebody. Practice, practice, practice. That's all you can do. Okay, and we're out of here. Thank you very much. Good night.